I'm super excited about this. So I'm Eric. I'm in my insurance group. My partner in crime, James, over here.
Hey guys.
Yeah, I'm super excited this because I feel like I've seen Ruben like just blossom into this amazing entrepreneur, realtor, whatever. So I'm gonna introduce you. So this is my homeboy. This is Ruben Hernandez Valdez.
Yes.
Look at you, bro. Look at you. So San Antonio native.
Yes. Yes. From born and raised on the south side of San Antonio.
Rockstar realtor with the
Yeah.
Maloof Realty Group.
Yep. Maloof Realty. Yeah.
I was going through your Facebook trying to put all this together, and I'm like, former sales, former director, former energy team with the Spurs. I'm like, this guy was destined to be in real estate.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I didn't know I wanted to do real estate until 2019, I think it was. I thought I wanted to do new home sales. I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna be it. That's like easy. Let me do that. And I actually went through the whole interview process. I got to the final interview, and of course they hired someone with experience that had done it before. And I was like, well, then I started realizing like if I do that, I can only sell one brand of home, right? Like one build. And then I was like, let me do real estate. And now people are like, oh, like we never knew you liked real estate. Like, and I was like, well, I kind of didn't, honestly. Like I just knew that I wanted to do it, and it was something I wanted to see if I was good at. And then once I started doing it, I was like, oh wow. And I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but I was like, oh wow, like I can use real estate and of course make money and have a career and but then use it as a platform, like a vessel to do the other things that I want or like I have, that I've been wanting to do. So
Dude, so I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be completely honest. I think this is going to be our easiest podcast. I have known Ruben for a long time. My wife and one, I guess, how is it? I'm trying to think.
The dynamic is so,
how
all
Amanda's
looped in
all this.
So my husband's good. Well, they've known each other forever as Amanda. Amanda is like but one of your wife's best friends, and then we all just kind of got thrown together.
Thanks to Mama King. Thanks, Francis. All your little
parties.
All your parties. Your because dude, every year it's like a huge Halloween party at our house. Every year it's like a huge Christmas party. Abby and I are the only white people to show up, so we're like, we're privileged. You know what I mean? And I remember one year Amanda Francis asked me if I wanted to be Santa Claus, and I just thought it was hilarious. I was like, this is like I've been accepted.
Yeah. I'm in.
Dude, family is great.
Sounds like it.
I mean,
and none of us are blood related. Yeah, like
exactly.
I think that one of her, this is probably off topic, but one of their cousins, she's young. She was like, wait, what about like? She started naming all the friends, and she's like, how are we related to them? And she's like, oh well, they're not your cousin. And she was like, what? Like she was mind blown. She thought we were all related.
Dude, and it's funny, like and you've been around for a while, and you see like Crystal's kids grow up.
Oh yeah.
Like one's in college now. I think I saw that.
Strange.
What's the one in who's the kid in Corpus Christi?
Oh God,
we're
Brianna.
Obviously so close.
Brianna.
Sure,
Brianna.
There's so many of them.
Yeah, Brianna's like her birthday's a day, like turning 20 or 21. Like it's just
makes
so
you feel
crazy
old.
because we've known these kids since they were like 10, 11, 12. Dude, it's just been
now you're old and he's young and handsome.
Yeah,
he's
old.
He's older. I'm old.
Ruben's obviously a rock star over here. So
yeah,
he obviously, he hasn't been in real estate long enough yet, I guess.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
How did you if you could tell us your story from like real quick, like as a kid and how did you go through the school of hard knocks, or did you listen to somebody smarter than you?
So I'm from the south side of San Antonio. So, and I say that thinking that just assumes things, right? But it was difficult. It was tough. So I grew up. We never owned, like my parents literally just this year bought their own house. I helped them buy their first house ever. But so school wise, like, I mean, I was in the Harlandale Independent School District, which doesn't have the best reputation.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't even know I wanted to go to college. I went to UT in Austin. Okay. I didn't know where I was going until my junior year when it was like, oh, I guess I'll fill out this application and figure out where I'm going to go. Because no one in that school or that, at that time, no one was focusing on college. Like, it was like, if you were smart and you were in the top 10, which thankfully I was, they were pulling you into that little college career, like college room path. But even then, it wasn't like, it was just like, okay, well, this is what you want to do. So then I was like, well, in my head, I was like, oh, in movies, you go away to college, so I got to go away somewhere. But I didn't want to go too far, so I went to Austin, and then, I lived there for 8 years, I think. I lived in Austin. And then, I mean, so I didn't. I'll be honest. I had academic probation in Austin. Like I got thrown in. It was very difficult just because it's UT in Austin. Love it. I'm so proud of it. But it's like a public private school. Like it is really hard for no reason. But it's like an Ivy League public school. Like it's crazy. But and so yeah. So I went through the whole struggle in college like everyone does. But it was difficult because going from a school like my high school, McCollum High School, and being a great school, teachers were amazing, but you're not ready. You're not thrown. We didn't have college prep or anything like that. So I was
shock and a couple
I like remember laying in my bed, looking at the ceiling, crying like I'm gonna go home. Like after this semester, I'm gonna go home. Like that's it. Wow. I can't do this because I was and one thing was I was used to be around like Hispanics and like colored folk, right? Like all my people, and then I got thrown into the University of Texas where majority are like Asian or white. And I am half white, so I was like, oh, I can identify, but I couldn't identify with that white. Like these kids were, and I say that I hate to bring up race, but it was more privilege, if you will, not even race. It was just like, I mean, kids were pulling up in their BMWs to college, and I'm like, I'm taking the bus, you know. Yeah. So little things like that, I was like, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. Right. But that was the first. That was like the first lesson. I was like, no, like I can do this. Like let's push through.
Yeah. Dude, I like that because I'm 37. You're what, 35?
Yeah.
How old are you?
31.
I think there was a transition in for people in our age group from, you know, college not being like a huge importance to 180 degrees later. No, you got to go to college.
There's no choice.
And, you know, I think there was like this huge turn there. I mean, and you saw it too in the cost of college education and whatnot. And you're right, man. Like, okay, I'm just Ruben from the south side of San Antonio. Like, I don't have.
Odds are stacked.
Yeah.
Did my parents plan for this? Like, did my parents plan for my college, you know, tuition? You know, because a lot of them did.
Yeah.
And you know, and I'm glad that's why we're here today and we're talking about this because not everybody's journey is the same.
Right.
But that doesn't really mean anything.
Right.
Because I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but we're going to talk about your journey a little bit more, and we're going to talk about your success.
Right.
Because, you know, what you've become, the odds were already stacked against you a little bit. In real estate, the odds are stacked against you. Period.
Yeah.
But what you've been able to overcome, man, is no small feat here, and we're going to talk about this.
I appreciate you saying that because I mean, when we talk about it, it'll probably open my eyes. But I was listening to an interview right now on the way, and it's one of those things like people will tell you all the time, like you're doing great, regardless of what industry you're in or whatever. But for me, I'm like, oh, I'm just doing what everyone else is doing. Like, I don't realize I'm not on the outside. It's like I used to plan events for the Westin or even my own wedding. Like, I was like, oh, my God, that was horrible. But because I was behind the scenes doing all the work, I was like, oh, this was just a normal wedding or a normal big gala that I planned. Sure. But then the people that were
nice, by the way.
But the people that are in it or having the experience are like, oh, my God, you know, for instance, with my quote-unquote success, right? Like, oh, my God, you're doing amazing or this event was amazing. And I'm like, I just thought it was a regular event, like, and then in relation to me right now, like, I'm just doing what all the other agents are doing, I think, but I guess not, you know what I mean, which is good to know, but.
You're doing what all the other agents within the top 10% of San Antonio are doing.
Well, I appreciate that, yeah.
Because the other 90% aren't.
And I don't think it's hit me yet. This is my first full calendar year, so, because I started in March, so, literally, I got my license and the world shut down, so I took a couple months to kind of regroup and figure out what the hell I was going to do. And yeah, so this is my first full calendar year, so I think that's why it hasn't hit me. Like at the end of the year, I think when I see my numbers and when it's time for the end of the year accolades and the awards or whatever comes, that'll probably when it's like, oh yeah, like, okay, like maybe I'm doing it. Yeah.
And I can tell already just from speaking with you for this short amount of time, this is a heart story. There's certain levels that you can't achieve without having that inner drive, that inner heart. And, you know, being shut down in coronavirus and saying, you know what, this isn't the end of me, right? That takes heart. You know, coming from, you know, the south side or whatever, and then, you know, fighting your way to UT, a great school, and fighting through the grades to make it there. And then noticing that you're different, right? Yeah. You know, but you still decided to keep pushing through. Yeah. That's all heart, and I love that stuff.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Fun fact about Ruben. Huge Kelly Clarkson fan.
Oh God, I was wondering if you were gonna bring that up.
I got a
Can I just say I just got back from Vegas, okay? And we're there, and we were going for a friend's birthday. George Strait was in town.
There you go.
We were contemplating going, and the tickets skyrocketed naturally. But anyway, I was like, oh, we're not gonna go, whatever. So we go to a pool party, and again, like you said, I'm a huge fan of Kelly Clarkson. So I'm sitting at the damn pool party, and I open my phone, and I get on Instagram, and the first freaking post I see is Kelly Clarkson. She literally the caption says, Vegas, Topgolf, and George Strait. And I was like, and I looked at my husband, I was like, Kelly Clarkson. And I look up and I can see Topgolf building. I'm like, So anyway, a fun fact. But yeah, so I was like, yes, I am a big Kelly Clarkson fan. Yeah.
So big he's actually on the show.
I came on the show, yeah. I mean, virtually because of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
But it was, she does this thing where she sings a song at the beginning of every show.
Cool.
Like covers a song, and they pick someone from the audience to request it. And the producers, I randomly got a message on Instagram from one of the producers, and they're like, hey, we saw you in I was just an audience member at one point. So they had seen me, and they said I stood out, and they wanted me to be the person so I got to chat with her for like a minute, but it was pretty cool, yeah.
Hey, dude, she's a firework.
Yeah.
You have that you posted that on Facebook, I know for sure.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to go see it, you can find it on Ruben's Facebook. It's a cool experience.
It was super cool, yeah. Like, and I will not to take up too much of the time, but I had gone to LA because I'm that big of a fan. The second day of her shooting her show, season 1, I got tickets and I flew out there just to go to it. And kid you not, we're sitting there, the same experience, but not virtually. A producer comes up to me and my husband, and she's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, huh? And she was like, I want to talk to you, blah, blah, blah. She got me and a couple other people to like request a song. And then what they do before COVID was they run to the backstage and they pitch the songs that are requested to Kelly Clarkson. She has like 30 minutes to learn the song with her band, and then she sings it.
Wow.
Well, my song wasn't chosen, but then, okay, whatever, the show begins to film and whatever it happens. And then at the end, I'm like watching the show happen, and I keep feeling like someone's staring at me, and I'm like, and so I finally look over, and all these producers are just looking at me, and they're like waving, and I'm like, oh hey, and I look over at my husband, I'm like, what the hell's happening? And he's like, oh, I don't know. So I keep watching, and then I look again, and there's more of them, and they're like pointing and waving at me, and I'm like, do they recognize me? Like, what's happening here?
What do they think I am?
Yeah, like, do they see me that I'm a crazy person posting about her on social media? I don't know. Well, then sure enough, enough at the end, well, then the last point, I'm like watching, and then finally I'm like, I look over and I look at my husband. I'm like, don't make it all obvious, but look to my left. Are they staring at us? He looks, and then he just leans forward and waves, and I look over and they're waving again. I'm like, what the hell? So sure enough, at the end of the show, they're releasing everyone, and the producer comes up to us and they're like, can you guys stay behind? We want to talk to you.
There you go.
And so I was like, God, do not do this to me right now. Like, you cannot pretend like I left LA. They called me and had like an hour-long interview. They were just trying to get information. It was the first season. They wanted to see if there was a story there. And then I never heard back. And then fast forward COVID, then this all happened. So I was like, wow, like, so I'm like, I think third time's a charm. I need to go one more time and see what happens. So, but anyway, I think to your point, to kind of bring it full circle, I think that for the longest time, I've always had these dreams and these goals, and I always thought like my dreams are too big. Sometimes I thought I'm living in a fairy tale. I can't live that way. Like, I'm growing up. Like, I need to realize that some of these things can't happen. But here in the last 2 years of my life, or even a year, I've been like kind of honing in on what's meant to be will find its way, and kind of just like really believing those things. And more often, there's these opportunities that keep getting thrown at me, or people like you guys telling me, and it feels great. It's humbling and it's nice, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, no offense to you guys, but I'm like, oh, well, they don't know. Like, maybe I'm just one of the best things that they've seen. Maybe. Sure. And so, but I try to remind myself, like, Ruben, like, do what you've been telling everyone else to do, and believe in yourself, and have this confidence and inspired. That's what I love to do. I love to like boost everyone up, but I'm like, Ruben, like, do it for yourself sometimes, but that's the hard part.
Yeah. Well, we talk about opportunities, right?
Yeah.
I say this all the time. As a human, you're going to get opportunities. You have to be smart enough to realize it's an opportunity,
right?
And then you have to be fearless enough to take on the opportunity,
right?
Whether like it's a new job, whether it's something like that.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, like some people get so caught up in just the the normal.
Yeah.
That they're like or they're just not confident enough to be like, you know what, I don't want to do that. I don't think I can. I think I'm going to fail or whatever. You got to be fearless, man, to be able to take the opportunity and take advantage of the opportunity, and then put all your energy and effort in the long nights and you know the studying, all that stuff like that, to really be for the success that you've had. And it's kind of funny. I told you this is going to be an easy interview because Ruben's just going to segue.
I was going to say I also talk a lot, so.
Okay. Well, so let's talk about your journey. We talk about the former sales, the director. We talked about the West End. We talked about the event planning. How have these opportunities just kind of progressed to Ruben the Realtor?
Yeah.
How has these opportunities put you in place to be so successful in what you're doing right now?
That's so funny that you guys asked that, because growing up, right, and I'll start from that point of growing up. I was like the biggest nerd, right? Like I had no friends in middle school. Like I was bullied, like, and I say that now. A lot of people I tell the story, they're like, "Oh," I'm like, "Don't feel bad. Like it's really not that serious." But I mean, it was to the point like people were like pushing me in lockers, like coming up and like trying to cut my hair. Like it was crazy. But
Southside.
Yeah. But I think that was I guess you could say strike one for me. Like it was like, okay, like then of course the prove them wrong part was then grow into high school, become a captain of the cheerleading squad, and have all the friends, and then look at those bullies in their eyes and be like, oh, like you like my friend, you like her? Oh, you have to go through me. Like I'm her friend. And like that was like the immature, right? I think back on it in hindsight, I'm like, oh, that was my first like little peak, right? And then of course college, and then getting through that. But then in event planning, I remember it was years of just struggle because I was the youngest person in the office. I started as an admin and at the Hyatt, and everyone wondered like, and the way I work, and it's probably my generation, but it's like, okay, I get a promotion, okay, in 6 months, where's my next one? Like, what's going on, right? That's just kind of, I guess, the way of that we think, and I say millennials, right? And so I remember getting promoted, and she was like, okay, you'll stay here for a year, and then you'll go to the next, thing, which would be event planning manager. So I was like, oh, okay, that's easy. Well, 6 months in, I went to my director. I'm like, all right, what's up? Like, I've done everything. Like, this is too easy for me. Like, I'm ready to go. And they were like, oh, well, and you have to wait and blah, blah, blah. And I specifically, and I hope she's watching one day, right? But I look back, there was this manager, and I was actually her assistant before I moved on. And she told me, she sat me down, and she was like, Ruben, you're not ready to be a manager. Like, you're, and she was like, laughing, like, huh? Like, you can't do this. Like, you're still young, you're still maturing, like, you still have some growing up to do. Granted, I was like, I think 24 maybe.
Be patient. The be patient conversation.
But it was it was a little bit aggressive, like, like, it was, like, it wasn't like, oh, sweet child, like, you're not ready. It was like, you're not good enough for this. Like, it was very that. So I remember being like, okay. Yeah, so then I was like, all right. So that was the next thing. I hit the ground running. I remember I applied at the Westin and to be a manager, the event planning manager there. And I never got a call. And so I was like, so I went on, found the email address of the director, called the director, or emailed the director, never responded. And I knew someone that was working there at the time. She was actually, if I would have got the job, she would have been my assistant, right? So I call her and I'm like, hey, do you know what's going on? She's like, well, they actually already chose someone, but guess what? That person declined the offer, so they're starting the interview process again. So I was like, okay, so I emailed the director again. Well, sure enough, long story short, I ended up getting the interview. I got the job, and I asked the director, I'm like, what took so long? Like, why did you look over me? And she was like, well, you were the youngest one in the group, and we just didn't think that you could do it. Like and so sure enough, I got the job. I don't even know what year that was. I was 2015, maybe 2014, 2015. So I was 25, 26 in a management meeting with literally like 45-year-olds. Like I was the youngest. So then that was the next struggle was everyone saw, oh, like you're the young kid. Like, oh, you're so funny, or you're crazy. Like, oh, your ideas, or it was always like everything was so old school. Right. Because it's a company that's been around forever, right? Like they don't need help. They're on the Riverwalk. Like.
Right. And they're doing things the way things have always been done.
Yeah, so then
New Year's gala, and that's the way we're doing it.
Yeah, that's how it is, yeah. And so then I grew the wedding market at the Westin. I mean, I think, I can't even remember the numbers, but I was there for almost 2 years, and I had done more weddings than any other catering. So that felt amazing. But then after that, it became like a song, and like it was just a song and dance, and it was just the same thing. I stand at the top of the staircase. The bride comes up. You show her the ballroom, you know. So then I was like, yeah, no, I got to get out of here. And to some, they were like, oh, he's just young. He doesn't know what he wants to do.
Right.
But I knew that that's not what I wanted to do forever. And I knew that the next step after that was a director. And now that, I mean, I don't think I wanted to live my life in the hospitality industry. And thank God, because COVID happened, right?
Right.
But, and then after that, I jumped to where I was at before real estate, which was, I was the director of PR and marketing at a cheer and dance facility who is owned by one of my best friends. And I did that for a long time. I did it because I wanted to, obviously, but she was my friend, and they needed someone in that position. So I did that, and it didn't feel like a job. I wore like basketball shorts to work every day, and I got to coach kids, and that was fun. But again, back to the underlying like theme was like I knew I didn't want to do this. I wasn't a lifer, is what they call it in the cheer world.
Right. So is like that the kind of the feeling that you got at these jobs where like I'm noticing a trend, right? Both of these jobs, like you found the peak, and then the feeling that you started to get when you could not move up or there was no more growth.
Correct. Yes.
You got like kind of like I gotta get out.
Yeah.
Of here.
Well, because I even asked my boss, like I was like, she's like, Ruben, I gave you the director's position. Like that we created that title because at the time that was important to me.
Right.
I cared about what other people thought. I didn't want them to say like, oh my God, you went from being a manager at the Westin, working for Marriott hotels, to this little cheer quote unquote gym. And I was like, I need a title so that I can prove myself, which at the point I thought was important.
Right.
And so, yeah, so then when I had the conversation, she was like, Ruben, I'm like, and I remember having this honest conversation with her, like, you get to be on Great Day SA and talk about the gym, but why can't I? I'm the director of PR. Like, why should, but then I had to realize, like, she's like, well, I'm the owner.
Right.
Like, you're always going to work for me. Not in a mean way, but she was basically saying, like, well, that's just what it is. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not okay with that. And that's when I was like, okay, I need to figure out what I'm doing. Like, I need to be my own brand, my own face, I want to make all the decisions. And so, yeah, that's how I got here.
Yeah. You know, I think it's super important, you know, for people to understand that, you know, man, you're not stuck. And, you know, this isn't like my father-in-law. He worked for Chevron for like 45 years and retired there. And whenever my wife, you know, was at, you know, Medtronic, you know, for 4 or 5 years, and she's the same way. I mean, I don't want to do this job for the rest of my life. I want something bigger. And then she, you know, she after like 5 years of interviews and being declined, going for somebody with more experience, going for somebody who's not in inside sales, going for a candidate who's in outside sales already. You know, sorry, not this time. Sorry, not this time. She finally had a guy at Boston Scientific who took a chance on her to be an outside sales rep, and she did it for a year, traveling across the state of Texas, you know, selling, you know, lung products or whatever. And then, you know, but it leaped her into what she does now, still being outside sales, back at Medtronic, you know, manager of her.
What she really always wanted,
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, the idea of just like this is just a job, like it doesn't have to be like that. You can still pursue a passion in whatever occupation it is, man. You know, to me, I see like that, you know, the next step from the event planner, you know, job at the Marriott was sitting behind the desk, you know, overseeing a bunch of people. Like, dude, I don't want to do that, man. I don't want to do that.
Especially when you know you can be phenomenal.
It's
like, why am I settling for good? Why am I settling for great? Like, I want phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's funny because like, oh God, it's so funny. I think everything lately I've been realizing like this. I think it's called when things like are, it's like serendipity or whatever, like synchronicity. I was just having this. We were in Vegas and I was with my friend and I was telling her like sometimes I feel silly saying what I'm about to tell you guys. I feel weird, and she was like, Ruben, I got goosebumps. But I was like, I know that at one point I thought I was dreaming too big. But something tells me I'm meant for something, and I don't know what that something. It's like this call. Like every day I wake up, I'm like something. I don't know what it is, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'll say it. No one knows this. I don't know if you've ever seen the show The Circle on Netflix. It's a reality TV show. Long story short, I just got out of this huge casting process for the show. I didn't get the part. I'm not getting casted, which is why I can say it now.
Right.
But I was sure I was. Like I talked to Netflix executives. Like it was this big thing. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is what it is. Like everyone tells me you have a personality for this and da-da-da, and I can share my story, and it's like Big Brother through social media. You're stuck in an apartment, and you can catfish or you can be yourself, but you're gaining friends, and then they vote people out, and the winner wins like $100,000 or something. But I was like, I don't even care if I win. Like I just want to go on there and show the world and be the person that I didn't have when I was growing up. Because yeah, like you growing up on the South Side, and then like being gay, and like, I mean, there's just so many different layers. Now I feel like now the young people growing up have that, but there are adults that don't have that. The people that are my age that still are struggling, whether it be with sexuality, whether it be financially, whether it be with family. I mean, there's so many different layers. Anyway, so I thought that was what, and I was like, and I told my friend, I was like, oh, I didn't get it. Like I didn't get casted because I got the email while I was over there. And I was like, damn it, like that's what and she was like, Ruben, like it's gonna be more. And I was like, no, like I believe that now I'm like, I got that far in that process, and that's not my goal. Like I literally just did it because I had a really bad day in real estate, and I was like, oh, I got on to like clear my brain. I saw they were casting, I filled out the application, and they called me like in 3 hours. Like it was really quick. And in that same breath though, I think what a lot of people don't realize is they're like, oh, but you're a real estate agent. Like, you need to focus on selling. I'm like, oh, trust me, I'm focused on selling. Like, but to your point, like, you're never going to be, you don't have to be cornered. Like, you can be amazing at real estate, but you don't have to. I think that there's a stigma of like, oh, well, like, he's, like, don't go with him because his brain's tied up everywhere else. Or, like, or are you sure you want to go with Ruben because he's a real estate agent, but he also has this, this, and this. As long as I can balance all those things, you know, perfectly, I think it's good. But it's also important to know that I know what my priority is, and it's my career, obviously, because I have to live. But I think that there's something inspiring there to like, and which is why I think that I identify with people, because they're like, oh my gosh, like, you know, he's doing real estate, but like, look at him, like he's still doing this. I wish I could be like that. And then it draws people to you. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of people are like, oh, you're doing so good, and I'm like, well, I'm just being myself finally, because I wasn't myself for a long time. For a very long time, I was like, no, like. Even getting into real estate, I was like, I have to wear a suit, and I have to be this, and I have to, you know, I can't post anything, you know, political, or I can't, you know, post anything as far as like the LGBT. Like, I have to make sure that I identify to the Democrats and the Republicans and the conservatives and the non-conservatives. And I was like, you know what? At some point, I was like, if I want to post during, you know, Pride Month was in July. If I want to post something about Pride, and there's someone out there that's like, well, I don't believe in what he believes in, that's totally fine. I'm not going to not like you for it. But if you don't want to use me, well, then trust me, there's so many more that will. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
Well, you know, we talk about every time you tell somebody yes, you're telling somebody else no.
Right.
And I think, you know, you have to, you know, obviously politics and religion and all that other stuff is already a slippery slope on social media. Yeah. But, man, in the grand scheme of things, there's more people using you because it's you and who you are, not because you're politically correct on social media. You know what I mean? Because there's no relationship there.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? My relationship was with Ruben the Realtor because of who Ruben the Realtor is. And there are some people that aren't going to use you for whatever reason it may be, and that's fine. They're just like us. We're an insurance agency, man. We got people that may not want to be insured here because we're not willing to do the things that they want us to do because we don't want to take on the risk or liability, and that's cool, man. Everybody, you got to get in where you fit in, and the moment that you accept that as a human, that you've accepted that in your heart and practice it, dude, it's a huge weight off your shoulder because you're not trying to make everybody happy. I just want to make the people happy that want to be happy with me. You know what I mean? It's a huge relief.
Oh, for sure.
When you're following your path, too, that was designed for you, opportunities that were only designed for you will open up, you know, and you've got to, and some of the opportunities that do open up only come after a year or two of hard work, you know, and so it's cool.
That's a good point, man. The opportunities that were presented to you were because of who you were, not who you were trying to be
yeah.
and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's a great point. So let's talk about this journey to real estate.
Yeah.
Why real estate? So we talked about, you know, what you did the first, you know, 30 years of your life.
Yeah.
You know, here you are, you're coming into 1 year of real estate now. So you're coming into 1 year of real estate. You know, why real estate? What was it about real estate? And if you tell me because I just want to help people, that's what everyone says.
I know.
You know, why real estate?
Yeah.
Like, we know it's a challenge. We know, but why?
Sometimes people will have a connection, like a family member. Was it?
No, I literally knew nobody in real estate. I think this is so cheesy, but I think it's just the stars aligned. Like, it was. I wanted to do it before I got married, and then I was like, okay, no, I have a wedding plan. I can't quit my job. Like, I got to continue and push through. To be honest, I think it was, I thought I wanted to do new home sales, right? So that was one thing. The money was a huge thing. I don't want to say I grew up poor, because my parents watch this, they're going to be like, we weren't poor. Right. But I'm like, we were eating fideo and beans for a while. Yeah, so that, wanting more, but yeah, I don't think, and then, well, I have to give credit where credit's due. Carlos Hill, who I'm part of his team, he's my team lead. He taught Zumba for a long time, and my husband teaches Zumba, or I think you could say instructs, teaches, whatever. Yeah. So they knew each other, and so I had seen that he was in real estate, and that was only one person in my circle. I wasn't even in his circle. He was just like a acquaintance. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, okay, and never really thought about it. And but to be honest, like the catalyst was the money. I was like, you know what, I can do this. Like, I know I can sell. I know, and I could talk a darn dog off of a damn meat truck. So like, I think I could be good at this. That's and yeah. And so I was like, okay, like I'm just gonna do it. Like, I kid you not, signed up for real estate school like on a whim. Like, looked it up, saw Champions was a good one, and paid the money and started. And so yeah, I mean, I wish I had like a cool answer as to why, but it was the money. But then it was the flexibility,
right? And
it was, everyone says like, oh, you get to be your own boss, which is true, and it's not, because I have a broker and he kind of runs the show in a sense. But there's something about not having to ask permission, and I know that sounds so cliche, and of course everyone wants that. Everyone wants to be their own. But there are some people that need structure and that need someone to tell them what to do from point A to point B, and I'm definitely not that person. And my degree's in public relations and marketing, so I could tie all that in. That's how I was like, I can have a career and do something that seems like I can do, but then I can also include what I went to school for. I can do campaigns for myself. I can, whether it be social media or I can help other organizations in some way, some shape. So yeah, I guess helping people is one thing, but it was more just the entire experience of, and every day I wake up, I'm like, I can wake up at 6 today, or I can wake up at 10 today. Right. Usually it's the latter. But anyway, yeah, I think that there was no one I knew. Like, it was just like, well, let's just see if this works. And then COVID hit, and I was like, oh shit, I think I made the wrong decision. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. But then, like, one of my first clients was one of our mutual friends, Jessica. Literally yesterday was 1 year from her buying her house, which is crazy. But yeah, and then people started taking chances. I would say chances on me because I was new. But yeah, and then, but to kind of tie back what we were saying into this, it's funny because I thought, I don't know if I can do this, because every agent I know is so, no offense to anyone watching this, but it's so, or I thought, right now I know more, but I thought they were so rigid, and I thought they were so old school, which if it works for you, it works for you. Good for you. You know, you have, especially those that have been in the industry for so long.
Right.
That's their referrals, and they were getting referrals, and that's just how they know, and their knowledge is what catapults them. Right. Not to say my knowledge doesn't, but that's what I took baby steps at the beginning of real estate, because I was like, I don't know what my route is. I don't know what my brand is. I don't know what my look is. I don't know what to do, who to follow. And my broker, love him to death, but he's old school, and he's been doing this for a long time. And so he doesn't really have to follow any type of anything. Like, he was in the military. He has so many referrals, and he still works his ass off. But for me, I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, and then I got thrown to a brokerage. We're a boutique brokerage. We're not Keller Williams. We're not, EXP. We're not these huge brokerages. But that came to be one of my favorite parts of what of where I am at, because my broker, he lets us have free reign of whatever we want to do. Like for instance, I'm gonna be one of the presenting sponsors for the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce gala in October. Just me though, not my brokerage. Right. And I mean, he's helping me. Well, he's backing me for a good amount of it. Right. But he's like, no, do you, like, that's you. And there's something invigorating. There's something inspiring about that, especially coming from a very conservative military guy who, before Ruben the Realtor, probably didn't have anyone not the status quo in his building. So that's something that weighs on my heart. I'm like, I can confidently say, like, I did that, because I don't think he would have. I truly don't think that my broker, being kind of where he comes from and his beliefs and how in his age, I think I opened the door for hopefully I opened the door for someone that comes after me into his brokerage or another brokerage that's like it. You know what I mean?
That made you feel good. Were there any other? What were the other signs of things starting to go right? Where you're like, oh, baby steps, but this feels right. This is starting to work for me. What were some of the small signs, like the small successes? Maybe you got a client that was a friend of a friend. You're like, oh wow, they feel confident enough to use me. Yeah,
that was one of them. When I got my first referral from a friend of a friend, that was one of the things. But then the other one was I got a referral on TikTok from LA, and they were moving from LA to here, and I was like, oh, like this works. I'm doing something right. That was cool. And then when I got named the #1 agent from The Current, I had been doing real estate for like 5 months, and The Current does their best of every year. Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I could get people to vote for me. Like, let's just try it. Okay. So I nominated myself, and then from there it was like I got to the top 5, and then I was in the final, like the actual final voting, and then I used my degree, and I was like, well, there's a drag queen at Paramore. They do drag brunches, and she was nominated for best drag queen, and I was like, she's never won, and she's been doing it for every year, and I was like, I'm gonna team up with her. So I hired a videographer, and we did this big campaign, and I had a photo shoot, and I did all these like graphics, and if you vote for her, you vote for me, and then you're entered to win $100 to Paisan, to like I don't even know, Scoozies. So we did this big campaign, and I was like, well, I probably won't win. She'll probably win first. I'll maybe get second. And then the results came out, and I got the email that I won, and I was like, what? That moment where I was like, I do know what I'm doing. Like, not in regards to real estate, but I know how to run a campaign. I know. So that was probably the moment where I was like, cool. Dang, like I did that.
And you're in the big leagues now. Everybody's watching.
Yeah. Well, sorry, I knew you were about to ask a question, but one thing that I feel like this is one of the big things, actually, and it just happened. You know who Gilly Mendoza is, correct? He's one of the, I would say, leading agents in San Antonio. I maybe it's just because I'm very I'm biased, but I just see his name everywhere, and I know he does really well, and he's been doing it for a while. Well, he graduated from my high school, and I know his younger brother is 1 year older than me. We kind of ran with the same people, but I never at one point met Gilly face to face. Maybe at a party in high school, and he was like a senior and I was like a freshman, but I don't know him personally. And the big full circle, and it's the smallest moment, but he's in the top 10 for the Hispanic real estate professionals in San Antonio. I went to that event with Carlos, my team lead, because he was in the top 100 as well. But anyway, so Carlos comes to the office the other day, and he's like, Ruben, like, sit down, because I know you're going to like this story. And I was like, what? He had a closing at Key Title. Well, Gilly's office is right next to Key Title, and Gilly actually happened to have a closing that day. So he came up to my team lead, Carlos, because they started around the same time. And he's like, hey, like, how are you doing? And Carlos was like, one of the first things out of his mouth was, hey, that guy Ruben's on your team, right? And Carlos was like, yeah. And Gilly was like, oh, yeah, like, he went to my high school. Like, how's he doing? Like, what is he looking like? And Carlos was like, well, he's projected to sell, like, make about 40 transactions this year. And Gilly was like, oh, I've had my eye on him. And that moment for me was like, he knew I went to his high school.
Right.
And I'm not saying like Gilly is, if you ever see this Gilly, I'm not saying he's not like this big person, but to normal people he's not. But to me, I was like, he's from where I'm from.
Right.
and somehow I got on his radar. I don't know how, and that means something to me. Not that I care what people think or anything like that anymore, but I'm like, wow, someone of that stature who has done so well, who's from where I'm from, has never met me, but knew a good amount about me, right?
Right.
That was like, okay, like that. I think that moment where I was like, another person in my industry who I value, right, or I kind of admire from afar, already knew who I was. I was like, wow, like that was cool for me, and that just happened like 2 or 3 weeks ago, so that was cool.
Yeah, man. You know, so people like us struggle with what success looks like. You know what I mean. Like for me, nobody is going to feel sorry for me if they know my story, right? And so, but one of the most successful lenders I know, I asked him. He's one of the most wealthiest people I know. I asked him the other day. I was like, dude, when did you know you made it? You know what I mean? Because if people look at me and they look at what we've created here, in our agency, people are like, dude, you've made it. Like, dude, I don't feel like I made it at all. I freaking exhaust myself every single day. You know what I mean? Like, I'm beating it. Sometimes you just want to curl up in a corner and cry for 5 minutes. But then you got to understand.
Did that
yesterday. Right? Sometimes you just got to understand, like, okay, dude, have your pity party.
Yeah.
But you got to get back up and go on. So when did you know you made it? And the response was, man, you never know that you made it. And, but he said, I can do what I want, when I want, and don't care how much it costs. And that to me is like, man, that's super powerful, especially like if you got kids and you're married and whatnot, and being able to do things for your family that other people, may not have the opportunity to do for whatever reason it may be. But success is different to everybody.
Super subjective.
Yeah, I mean, I every day, are we successful? Yeah, probably on paper, but there's still a lot of growing to be done.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that I'm starting to learn that real success is sometimes you get the money and you get things like that, but if you can do the small things right every day, and you can be accountable to your family and your people, and your job and yourself, and do the small things every day, and you can say, I left it all out on the court. That is true success. Because you will be building your successful kingdom by laying each brick right.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
You bring up family, which ironically is the next thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about David.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the support. So you two, you've been together for a long time.
Yeah.
You're married. Was it been like a year, almost 2 years?
It's over 2 years already.
Okay. So you guys been married for 2 years, and then you're like, hey, David, guess what? I want to make a career change. I remember talking to you at Francis's house one time about, y'all were wanting to buy a house. This was a few years ago. And you weren't a realtor then.
No.
And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, man, like I know a ton of realtors.
Yeah.
Like, you've let me know or whatever, or if you need a lender, whatever it may be. But talk to me about the support from David and really your dad. I see you post a lot about your dad and your family.
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm going to make a career change. I want you to support me. How did this leapfrog you, or did it? I mean, was there a little bit of backlash?
No. Well, I think so. Yes, and when I say there was like some pushback, yes, from David, only because he was like, "Are you sure?"
Right.
But I think then after that when the first conversation happened of like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I cannot do this anymore.
Right.
He was like, okay, like, I mean, he's very like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Like, I'm the planner. I'm the analytical thinker. I'm the one that thinks, like, how this is going to connect to that. He's like, it'll all work out. Like, it's going to be fine. So after he realized that that's not, like, where I was at, I didn't want to do it forever. He was like, well, hurry up. Like, what are you going to do? Like, let's go. Like, do it. So that was nice. My family, on the other end, I bless their heart. They just, anything I do is amazing, right? I mean, that's all of our parents, right? But my parents are not my parents are very much so the yes men. Like, oh yeah, oh that was amazing, and everything I do could not be anything near great, right?
Right.
But But no, with David, I think I surprised him too, because there would be times like I'm like, oh, I passed the second test already, and I passed this one, and I'm on to this class, and he's like, how are you going so fast? Like, so I think I surprised him. I surprised myself. But it was nice because the, there. I mean, we both have had our struggles, as far as like figuring out what we want to do, and all these things in our careers. So it was kind of easy. But I do remember the coolest part was when I took the real estate exam. I thought I was gonna fail. First of all, that was one of the hard. I went to UT, which I mentioned earlier, which was a really hard school. That test was one of the hardest tests I've ever taken.
Right.
And maybe I wasn't as prepared as I thought. I don't know. I got my results back, and I was like, what the hell? I passed. So I called him right away, and he started crying. I wasn't crying. I'm not a crier. It takes a lot to make me cry. I really like have a shield, but he will cry for the drop of a freaking dime. So he was like crying, and then at that moment I was like, oh wait, like this meant something to you. Obviously, right? We're married, but you always hope that you find someone that like they care about what you're doing, not just like, oh yeah, that's my husband, of course I care. No, it was like he started crying. He's like, you did it. And I was like, then that was like, oh my God, I did it. Like that was cool. So he's always there. He's always I'm sure he thinks that my ideas are crazy. He does think that I'm a little overboard sometimes, but I'm big on, which I'm sure you probably saw, sometimes perception is just reality in the business. And if you can convince people that you've made it, or you are bigger than you are, then you're doing something right. And regardless of if you are or you're not, I think the only thing as far as supportive with him, he gets mad at me because, remember, my degree's in PR and marketing, so my brain goes there immediately for any project, including his Zumba. So like I'm like, you're gonna post that flyer? And he's like, well, yeah, what's wrong with it? And I'm like, well, can you send it to me? Because I'm like, you need to start, like, I'm all about like, I'm like, charge more and do this and do that.
Right.
And he's like, huh? And I have to pull back sometimes because I'm like, this isn't real estate, number one, but number two, this is like his thing, right? And he lets me do my thing, but he does come to me every now and then. He's like, I need your help. Or one of his Zumba people, they're opening a facility and they're like needing an agent for commercial real estate or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he has my back a lot, but obviously I have his back. But it's definitely eye opening because when you first, like, even when you can remember when you first get married, right? You're like, oh yeah, like I'm getting married, like I found the person, right? Because you've been dating for so long. But then once you're married and then you're in it, that's when you realize like, oh, I did. Some people think like, oh shit, I made the wrong choice. But then some people are like, oh, like this was my validate. Now I'm realizing like I made the right choice. I'm with the person I need to be with for the rest of my life. So through this journey, I think that's been eye-opening. That's where I'm like, okay, like we did it. Like this is our foundation, and we're starting to finally grow and expand into all the other things that we want to do.
Having nothing support at the house
starts there.
There, man. Your success starts with the support at your house. I mean, the same thing, with our wives. I mean, it's like, you guys are going to do what? You guys are going to merge. You guys are going to buy this. Everything starts with the home, support at the house, regardless of finances. I mean, that's a whole nother story, right? But having a strong support group, your family, your spear, Carlos, I mean, it starts there. That is the foundation of your success.
Yeah, like catapulting for sure. Yeah,
man, it's crazy.
Positivity and all that stuff. It sounds like you have. I want you to talk about, just off topic a little bit. You seem extremely positive. Overcoming comes to mind when I think about your story. Golly, being nice to people and working hard, and that has brought you through so many obstacles.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So, can you touch on just the positivity and working with people and generally being happy and working hard? How many obstacles has that allowed you to overcome in your life?
Let me just say that I kind of what people may say, like, how do you do it? Like, how, well, first of all, obviously we're all human. Like, I'm not the most nice person all the time, right? But I've grown up thinking I have to believe there's hope. You have to believe there's better. You have to believe in kindness, because if not, then what else? Like, if not, there's times I'm like, if you don't believe in any of that, if you don't believe that exists, then I don't think I can handle life if I didn't constantly think of that brighter, bigger, better thing of everything being great. Because if not, it's like, I just don't think I could handle life, But those things that you're kind of talking, I mean, so many actually, especially since I started in real estate. Everyone knows, you guys deal with it. Like, if you're doing something great, there are a lot of people that are there that are trying to break you down.
Right.
Whether it be someone in the industry, whether it be family, friends, whatever, or people you don't even know are saying it, right? But one of the, and I have to tell the story, but this will kind of engulf the way I think. When I started in real estate early on, there was a specific person in the industry who was already a naysayer. They were kind of trolling my social media, and I say trolling, I mean like just keeping a close eye, if you will, and kind of reporting back to other people. And I was like, what the hell?
Right.
What the hell? I'm just having fun. I'm just trying to get ahead. I'm trying to do what and at first I got really offended. I was like, what the? And then I was like, you know what? I looked at that person's stuff and their success, and I was like, well, good for them.
Right.
Like, I can't knock that specific person because they're hustlers, or they're doing this and they're doing that. And I had to realize, like, maybe they want me to be in part of their organization. Maybe that's their way of getting me on their side or whatever, right?
Right.
And so that's just an example where it's so cliche. It's like, oh, looking at like the silver lining. But if not, in that moment, I would have thought everyone in the industry was like that,
right?
And that's so far from the truth, because I mean, look, I'm sitting here with you guys, not half of the people are like that. But then, as far as what I said about just believing and knowing that there's something better always there, it relates. It kind of goes back to, my growing up. Like, you kind of touched on it. I talk about my dad a lot on social media, but that's because I did not have a good relationship with my dad growing up, because for the longest time, I was not me. Right? I was like trying to be like this guy that I thought my dad wanted, playing football and soccer and doing all these things. And then I became a cheerleader, and that was not the easiest conversation. And then, of course, I had to come out and say I was gay, and that was we can probably have another podcast about that, but it was literally like for like months, probably like 6 months. It was like I would be sitting, once my dad found out, I would be sitting at the couch, and if I was watching something even remote that could even somehow be tied to being girly or gay, he would walk in, I'd just hand the remote. I'd be like, here, Dad, you can change it. Bless my mom's heart, we'd be at the dinner table, and like for 6 months or however long it was, he wouldn't even talk to me. So there's my mom, like just trying to pull conversation, and he was just quiet. Anytime I was around. So we didn't have this best relationship for years. And then, I mean, obviously he's getting older, and your parents get older, they have bigger hearts, and they're more stubborn, but they get bigger hearts, and they just don't care. And so now we're at a place where, like, I mean, he went to my wedding, and like, my husband, his dad passed away years ago, so he acts as that father figure for my husband. So complete 180. Wow. But I remember when it wasn't like that. I mean, I went all through college with my dad saying a couple words to me, maybe once every other week or something, so, and a lot of people are like, oh, like, how can you not resent him, and how are you not? And I'm like, well, I probably did for a little bit, but then I'm like, for what? Like, why? And a part of it, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, I was like, well, that's just, I just have to prove him wrong. Right. Like, I just have to show him, like, yeah, you think I'm this, but like, I'll show you that I'm going to be really successful, and you're going to kick yourself in your ass for treating me the way you did. And I'm not mad about it, because I know generational, and I mean, I understand now in hindsight, right, when it helps me understand older people now. I throw out my broker, I'm like, it's okay, that's just what they were used to. They were taught this was right, this is wrong, and that's how it is. They weren't brought up in 2020 where I mean, people identify across a huge spectrum that I can't even keep up with sometimes. But even, I mean, just on different levels. So yeah, so I think that's something that has been the catalyst and the foundation of overcoming and being positive. Because again, if not, there's so many people that I know in the world that when they came out, or when college didn't go right, or whatever it was, they just they resulted to drugs, or they just went into they're depressed, and now they have like a part-time job making minimum wage or whatever, like.
Right.
And so again, not that that's bad if that works for you and that's the life, if you're you're successful in that part of your life, but for me, I was like, no, like, we're not stopping there. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but
I mean, it is beautiful. You didn't, you don't give up on yourself.
Yeah, you really don't. You can't. Like,
well, you're the only one in your corner. You got David. You got your family.
Yeah,
we all have a cheerleader.
Mm-hmm,
we all have a group cheering for us. But man, at the end of the day, the only person that's going to take care of you is you.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, mentally, physically, emotionally. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can go get coaching. You can go get therapy. You can go get which I think is super
healthy. Yeah.
By the way.
But the only thing that matters is you standing up for yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah, because if you're not going to stand up for yourself, who is?
Nobody, yeah. I think that was kind of the story that I told you guys about, like, someone in the industry. I still have yet to be in a room with that person, but I think I can't wait for it.
Right.
Not for any negative reason, just so I can have that face-to-face conversation and say, like, and not bring up anything that I know, but more so, like, how are you doing? Like, what's going on? And
right.
Because that is going to be healing for me. You know what I mean? For to be able to hold a professional conversation with said person, and prove to myself, like, I held my own.
Right.
I spoke on what I wanted to speak on, and when that moment comes, it's going to be great. But a lot of people are like, the people that know the story, they're like, don't worry, like, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. I'm like, oh, yeah, I am. But at the same time, like,
I kept it classy.
Yeah, like, and I'm not,
basically stay professional.
Yeah. But I think on the flip side of that, I think everyone wants to be a realtor right now. Everyone wants to be a lender. Everyone wants to do insurance, right? Because this is the booming market. But I think people have to realize, like, because there's pressure, right? There's pressure to be professional. There's pressure to deliver. There's pressure to even give back and coach and all those other things. But what people don't realize is that in this industry, there's a lot of pull. There's push, but there's a lot of pull in so many different directions. And I don't think people realize or I just saw someone post this, like, his name was AJ. He's a real estate agent. And he was like, when people ask me, like, about being in the industry, what do I have to do? He said something along the lines of, like, you just have to be true to yourself.
Right.
And if you're true to yourself, things are just going to come to your, be delivered to you, kind of what we've been talking about. And I was like, yeah, you're right, because there's so many people just booming into the industry, whether it be agents or not, real estate agents or insurance or lenders, and then they're fading away. And that's something that he touched on. He's like, they fade away because they're like, oh shit, like, I don't know, there was this much involved in it. And you have to be able to have thick skin, but also let things run off your shoulder. Like, it's not that we're not curing cancer, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that serious.
Well, it's kind of like just gotta have a servant's heart, man. Like, everybody has their struggles. Sometimes you have to just extend yourself a little bit within boundaries, and then you just we talked about, I just did to want to take care of people or help people. It's like, well, there's, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so much to that. You and David recently, you guys bought your first house.
Yeah.
You bought your first house not long after your father bought his first house. I mean, we talk about it in the office, man. We write, 300 home policies a month, depending on the time of year in a booming real estate, summer or whatnot. My opinion, there is a high percentage of these people who grandparents never bought a house.
Right.
Their parents never bought a house. They are the first person to purchase a home in their family.
Yeah.
Dude, that is a huge sign of accomplishment. And being a homeowner is tough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you guys just purchased your first house.
Yeah.
You know, tell me about this, man. Like, what was it? What was it like?
Yeah. Well, I told myself when I started real estate that my parents would buy their house first. There was no question about it. Like, my parents had horrible credit. I mean, they weren't financially literate. I wasn't financially literate for a very long time.
And most people aren't.
Yeah, and so as soon as I became an agent and I understood everything, I mean, it was like in March, got my license, hit the ground running. I remember getting my parents a secured credit card and like got a credit repair. Like, it was just full force. And I realized then, I was like, oh dang, I literally put us in the back burner, which I'm fine with. But so did that, got them a house, and then literally got them under contract, closed, and then I looked at David. I was like, okay, like, now it's our turn, let's go. And then we just hit the ground running. But something that, I mean, the cool thing was, the full circle moment was, like, my parents have obviously done so much for me. Like, I didn't know I can give my whole commission to that moment. Speaking of moments, being able to just hand over whatever $6,000-$7,000, you know, the commission, and saying I'm not going to charge my parents commission, and they get to use that money towards their down payment or whatever, or their closing costs. That was cool, because that made it all that much easier for my parents to do it.
Right.
Granted, my dad retired recently, so then he got another job as an electrician, so he has like 2 incomes now, which is different from what I grew up in. But it's so super cool to see my parents like that. But for David and I honestly was like talking a big game, but in the back of my mind, I did doubt myself. I was like, oh shit, I don't think we're gonna be able to do this, because I was so financially illiterate, and I had so many student loans from school, because obviously my parents couldn't pay for it. Student loans, and then dumb decisions I made to survive in Austin while I was there really has still affected me. And then and my husband as well, he was in school, but then he stopped going to school to do other things, and you know, whatever. So we had a lot on. If you looked at us on paper, we were probably like the biggest risk, right? So we worked our asses off and paid debt, like literally did the whole like snowball debt thing where you just kind of pay and pay and pay, and then worked with the credit repair. So that was like, oh my god, we're never gonna get there. Like, we're just never gonna get there. And then throw in the housing market right now, where we were an FHA, and so like no one's getting up. Well, not no one, but it's very rare to get approved or to get your offer accepted. So then it became that. So once we got the approval, we're like, oh shoot, we can do this. And I'll say a quick story, but long story short, the way we got our house, the coolest story. I was working with a new home builder rep that I work with at Lennar, or that I was working with at Lennar, and so there was always this floor plan that I really liked, and I always thought like, oh, this is. And every time we'd go see it, I would tell her like, God, I love this floor plan. Fast forward, I got a call from her, and she was like, hey, there's a house in my community that's going to go for sale. And I thought, no shade thrown, but I was like, oh, well, Lennar's not playing well for commission, and I want to use my commission towards our closing costs, so I'm not going to go. Regardless, I'm not doing a new build. They're already overpriced, and the whole commission thing. Okay. So I was like, oh, thanks, but no thanks. Then I got told, then she finally was like, well, the owners contacted me. And I was like, the owners? Oh, this is like a pre-owned home. Right. Oh, okay, cool. Long story short, I had looked up the address. I saw the address. I saw the house on MLS. I went to the tax information just to curious who owns it, and it was 2 men's name. And I thought, oh, and I told my husband, I was like, oh, how funny, 2 gay guys own the house, blah blah blah, right? Thought it was like, I thought that was the universe. Me just thought they had humor. Sure. So closed my laptop. They're overpriced. It was way overpriced. I was not gonna buy it for that price. Whatever, moved on. But just to go with the flow, I call the agent the next morning, and I'm like, hey, she doesn't answer, so I leave a voicemail. I'm like, hey, me and my husband, boom. I get blown up the next day by that new home sales rep. She's calling me, but I'm not answering because I'm with the client. Finally, I call her back, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Her name's Amelia, by the way. I was like, hey, Amelia, what's going on? She's like, I'm so sorry I'm blowing you up, but I have to tell you something. I'm like, what? She's like, Ruben, I guess the agent heard my voicemail, communicated that to the owners. The owners heard me and my husband. Owners called Amelia and said, hey, because that was she was their rep, right, when they bought the house. They were like, hey, did you tell the potential buyers that we were an older gay couple? And she started laughing. She was like, no, why would I have said that? That's not my business, and that's not theirs. And they were like, well, do us a favor. You need to call them and tell them that we're not putting this house on the market until they come and see it and put an offer, and tell them that we're not we're not crazy. So she calls and tells me that, and I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah. So, and mind you, we had put like 15 offers on other houses and just kept getting denied.
Right.
Wow.
So I'm in Alamo Ranch off of Culebra, and it's like 5 o'clock. Like there's no way in God's hell I'm gonna freaking get all the way over there. And this is like we're like border. This house is like Converse shirts, like where the border is.
So you're like 3 hours.
Yeah,
later.
like an hour and something, right? So I'm like, I call my husband. He's like, I'm on my way to class. He teaches at Lifetime, and I'm like, well, he's like, I can't go with you, but send me pictures. Great. I'm driving over there. Agent's like, the only reason she's like, just so you know, the only reason we haven't listed it yet, we got postponed, is because the pictures got postponed. We would have posted it yesterday, but then you called, and then the pictures got postponed, so we don't even have pictures. So I'm driving. I get the text. We have pictures. Here's the link. So I send that to my husband. I pull up to the house. The front neighbor is the agent, so she just walks right over, opens the door for me. They're not home. I walk in, and I'm like, oh my God. So it's 3-bedroom with a office, 1,900 square feet, like just perfect.
Right.
But the price is in my head. I'm like, I'll be transparent with you. It was $289 is what they wanted for the house. I'm like, for my first house, I'm not paying $289. So saw the house, and they were like, well, we're not, we're not too firm on the price. Just submit an offer. So then I thought, I can't be, Ruben, don't be greedy, But then I was like, no, I'm my own agent. Like, I have to look out for me. So I put an offer in. It was super low. And they countered back $5,000 more than that low offer. And I was like, which was getting close to our max that we wanted to be at. So they accept the offer. Okay, that's just one. So whatever. Then snowball effect, domino effect. They end up leaving the refrigerator. All these things are only a year and a half old. The house and the appliances. Refrigerator, washer, dryer, tough shed in the back, leaf blower, hedge cutter, lawnmower. I mean, just everything they're leaving for us. They're like literally in their 60s, these men, older. They are moving to San Diego for a job offer. So anyway, then the appraisal comes back, and it comes back $15,000 less than what our offer was accepted.
Wow.
And they didn't ask for $1. So we got the house for almost $25,000 less than they were originally going to list it at, including all the things that they left for us.
Right.
So that was like, this was meant to be, right? So that was cool. And so anyway, that's a long-winded story, but that was like one of the moments where I was like, oh crap, like, and that's when we knew, like, thank God, because if not, we probably would still be putting offers on houses, So that was cool.
That's when you've made it again, man. Like, it's just, the things are just lining up.
Yeah, like, it was cool.
And how many followers do you have?
I don't think that many. I don't even keep up with that. I think maybe like maybe 2,000 maybe on Instagram.
So the reason why I ask is that you got 2,000 Instagram followers. I don't know how many are home buyers or home buyers and whatnot. Man, the goal is there. Yeah. Like, you can do it. Yeah. If Ruben can do it, he just told you his whole entire story.
Yeah.
If Ruben can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like, there may be hurdles, there may be bumps in the road, there may not go as smooth as you thought it would. I mean, right now the home buyer experience, whether it's your first home or your fifth home, is not very fun right now.
It's difficult.
So, but at the end of the day, you were focused, you had a goal, you prepared. Last year, started preparing, and here you are. Yeah. You got keys to your own house. Yeah. You're pulling your car into your own garage. Things of that. Man, it's those stories like that need to be relayed, because what we see on social media now is how hard it is to buy a house. Yeah. And it is. But as hard as it was, having a set of keys to your own house is very well fulfilling. Very much more fulfilling than the struggle that it took to get there.
Oh yeah, for sure. It outweighs, hands down. Hands down.
Definitely. So what are you doing? Like, I see, I remember back in like December. Yeah. Let's talk about like some of this charitable stuff, like little fun activities you're doing, man. I don't know if you saw this or I even brought it up to you. Ruben's walking around the dang grocery store or something, handing out money to people. Like, it was hilarious.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I'm actually, no one knows this. I'm actually, since it's my birthday month, August, I'm going to end my birthday month with another Venmo challenge, but a bigger one. What I do is basically, I saw it on TikTok, and it's like a Venmo challenge. I post my Venmo, and I'm like, hey, if you can send 50 cents, $1, $10, $5, I screenshot every time I get it, so people can see I'm using the money for what I say I'm using it for. And then I think I got, the first time I did it, I think I got like $500, and then the second one I got like 6 or 7. Wow. And then I literally I deposit from Venmo to my bank account, go to the bank to pull it out in cash, and then I try to help spread as much as I can. So if I have $800, I'll split it into like $200 each, and I'll just walk up to random people at HEB that I unfortunately, it's hard. Like, you are kind of judging people. But I go to parts of town that I think are gonna have the more people that are needing. And then I'll just walk up to someone and be like, hey, like, can I give you money? And I did it during Christmas, which that is, I'm not a crier. That was emotional. That was another thing where I was like, this is what I'm talking about. The vessel of real estate is helping me do this. And so I remember there was one woman, and there's a video of it. I take video of all of them, but there was one lady. I just was giving. I was about to give up. It was actually the first couple that I did. I was about to give up, and I think I was at the HEB over. Let's see, it was the west side of downtown, and I'm walking, and I was like, I'm just gonna give up. Like, I'm gonna leave. And I look up, and as I look up, I'm like, oh shoot. Like, it's a woman and a man, and they're both older, and it's cold outside, so they were wearing like these, like, I don't know what jackets they were, but they were like promotional jackets, like someone they got like a freebie, and they're carrying just one thing of detergent, and it's like the HEB brand, right? And I'm like, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I was like, okay. And so I looked at their shoes. I looked at just kind of, it's hard because you're judging a book by its cover, unfortunately, what we say not to do. So I was like, I'm just gonna try. So I was like, excuse me, and they wouldn't answer. And finally, I was like, I had to like get loud, and they looked back. Well, they didn't speak English, and so I was, and they were like, oh, no habla inglés, and I was like, ugh. So of course I don't speak Spanish very well, so I was just like, I just told them, like, I want to give you this money, and she kind of looked at me. We had masks on, right? So they kind of looked at me, and then I was like, let me see your hand. And I was just like, I started counting one, like, and I did strategically, right? 20, 40, instead of just 100. So it could be a lot more, impactful. Dramatic. Yeah, and dramatic. And so, mind you, I'm like holding with one hand because I'm trying to film so I could like document it for the people that, gave me the money.
Contributed, yes.
Yeah. And so, oh God, that moment was, I'll have to show you when we're done here, but like, she like held her mask, and she was like shaking, and she was crying, and well, that finishes. And then Alejandra at Thrive Mortgage tells me, oh my God, I know that guy. And I'm like, how do you know that guy? She's like, he builds homes. He was one of the people that built my dad's home. And I'm like, what? Like, how crazy? She saw him in the video. She's like, I know that guy. So that was cool because that was full circle, and I just happened to just see a random person at HEB. But yeah, I did it at HEB. I've done it like servers at Nietzsche's over there off like Pat Booker. I just told her, and I got her story, right? She was a single mom, and her kid was at home by themselves, and so I gave them the money, and so that's cool. So I'm gonna do it again for my birthday and hopefully get a lot more. But I'm gonna match it. So whatever I get, I'm gonna match so I can have so much more money to give out.
We'll try to grab those videos and then place them right here in this part of the interview.
Yeah, for sure.
And you talk about real estate as your vessel, man. And really, we talk about too the same thing, man. Insurance is not our job.
Yeah.
Insurance, well, it is our job, but insurance is our platform to do something better. Real estate is your platform to do something better. And the opportunity, obviously you've worked for it, but just being able to have the opportunity to do, whether it's something money related, it didn't have to be that. It could be like just throwing a party for somebody. It could just be like having the capabilities to do something that you wouldn't normally be able to do, man. It's just an awesome
that you didn't ever think you would be able to do. I think that's the big you never dreamt it would be possible.
And it's not about you.
Exactly.
This was about the money that other people
gave.
Who, sometimes like we talk about, volunteer activities, the food bank may not need your money.
Yeah.
Man, they need your time.
Yeah.
They need somebody to help them, separate all this stuff or whatever thing it is. Like some people don't need they don't need the money, man, but they need a commitment more than anything from us to, not just give me your money. Man, I need your time.
Yeah.
I'm having a problem finding volunteers. We have plenty of money. We have plenty of food.
Yeah.
But we don't have the time or the volunteers to spread all this wealth. And like for you, like the platform for all these people, I mean, $800 is a lot of damn money. They may not know how to
get there.
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And you were just the thing, you were the platform, like, hey man, I do want to help. I personally think a lot of people want to help. Not everybody, but a lot of people want to help. They just don't know how.
Yeah.
And I think moving forward, man, that's a great way to build on, whatever you want to do, whatever you choose to do moving forward is a great way to, you got this platform now, man. You got a huge following. I think 2,000 people is a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's probably 90% more than I have. But now you have this platform, man, and you're going to be able to help people give, and you're going to be able to help people receive.
Right.
So,
and it's part of your brand.
Yeah.
It's part of your brand.
Mm-hmm.
So
real quick, we were in the office the other day, and I didn't want to interject because you were talking to Carlos and I, but you were like, you mentioned a woman, and you said that one of the things that stuck with you when she said something about branding, like, this is my brand, this is my face. Do you remember that story you were saying?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I do. She's actually it's Ana Ramos.
So the funny thing is that when you were saying that, I have moments like this where you were saying it and you were looking at Carlos, but you said that and I was like, I literally live by that. Like, right. It's important. Like, he's gonna hate me, but Carlos, he will be like, oh, I'm gonna put this flyer together, and I'm like, Carlos, this looks nothing like the flyer you did before. Like, nothing is cohesive, you know. And so, but for me, I'm like, and that's just part of it. But like, I think, I texted you before this, and I was like, this is like one part of the branding. But I was like, when is it gonna be released? And it kind of sometimes can come across like, oh, okay, calm down, like, calm down. But like, I was like, I think I asked him like, when is it being released? And, or like, I don't know all the different things, but it's because I want to make sure I roll out perfectly on my platforms. Number one, to get as many, get as much audience as we can, but two, because that's just how I do things, right? Like, it has to all make sense for me. And so I think that if anyone is listening right now, in whatever industry, that's important too. Like, having an exact path of what you're going to look like getting there, because if not, then you start to look like, no, we're not following, right? People get a little like thrown off, and then they just dismiss you, and then you're just the furniture in the room.
Well, you got a great idea, but if you don't have a great plan, you got terrible execution.
Yeah.
And we talk about that all the time. So what's the end goal with this?
Yeah.
What are you trying to accomplish? We didn't want to just sit in a small room together and talk for an hour and a half just because we had nothing else to do, or just because we're friends. Like, what is the end goal here? And I think it's it's imperative, and you've done a great job of this, of building the brand with with a well thought out
with
plan.
Intention. Yeah.
Very, dude. The best comment I've ever been given was by a great friend of mine. She's like, man, let me tell you something about you. You are super intentional. Yeah, I don't do a whole lot of things just because. Yeah. There's always something behind it. Man, you got to be intentional. You're just gonna spin your wheels, man. You're not gonna get anywhere.
You're gonna get beat up.
Yeah.
You're gonna fail a lot more times than
and
you
then
probably should.
Yeah, and then you're gonna give up.
Yeah. And then you're gonna give up.
So
true.
Ruben, what are you doing for fun?
Oh God, fun? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, obvious. So I went on a trip finally, which was my first trip that I've taken in a very long time. But for fun, gosh, I wouldn't say this is fun, but I do have fun doing it. I've been working out with Camp Gladiator. I don't know if you've ever done it. You used to do it, or you still do it?
June 2019.
You're kidding me.
We're fellow campers. Yeah.
Okay. First
Monday,
of all,
Wednesday, Friday.
I don't know if you can see, but like, this is from, because I don't have gloves. If you're not watching the video, I have like marks on my hands because they were like, "Oh, we're doing bear crawls today," and I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" And she's like, "Oh," and of course I've only been doing it for like a month now. Right. And the trainer Whitney, she was like, Ruben, you need to get yourself some gloves. I was like, well, that wasn't on the what to bring item. Okay? But yeah, so anyway, but I've been really liking that. I go Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, and then in between I just go to the gym. But yeah, for fun, I mean, I'll be honest, on the weekend it's more like family or like birthdays, whatever. But during the week I have such a strict schedule of getting up, coming to the office, or just doing real estate and showings, and so there's not much that I'm doing for fun, if you will. But I did do YouTube for a long time, which you probably remember, and I'm going to bring it back because now I have an actual setup at home. Like, I have a room.
Is that the Ruben Rambles?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm going to – I know I'm going to rebrand it. So I know we're probably going I can see the timer going over there, and it's a lot of time already. But I have nothing to do. During COVID, I was like, okay, I'm bored. I'm at home. I'm going to start a talk show. That's one of my biggest – like, one of those big dreams that I always thought, like, like, is unattainable, and now I'm like, maybe I could do that one day. Yeah. And I hope that anyone's listening to this is impacting them, because this moment impacted me. I was like, screw it, I'm gonna do a talk show, and it's gonna be live, and I'm gonna use a platform. I forgot what it's called, but it's like a everyone uses it now, but shoot, it's gonna bother me anyway. So I was like, I put a press kit together, and I literally reached out to celebrities, and I was like, I'm going to get these people, and of course, people are like, Ruben, you're crazy, like you're not going to.
But you've been told that all your life.
Exactly. So I got the associate producer of the Kelly Clarkson show, one of the cast members of that show, The Circle, that I was talking about, how crazy, right? Foreshadowing. Got him. One of the people from America's Got Talent. One of the stars of the show Selling Sunset on Netflix. Got a girl from the show called the Songland on NBC. Like, I got people, right? So, but one of the coolest things for me was talking to the associate producer of the Kelly Clarkson show, which obviously was cool for me, but it was a cry fest, first of all, because it was during Black Lives Matter, and she's African American, and it was like this whole honest conversation. And it was kind of like this. Like, I didn't have any. I mean, you obviously have notes, but I didn't have like an exact of what we were going to talk about. It was just like, I want to touch on things, right? I kept telling her, you know, I had this clip on my social media, and she's like, I just want to say thank you. She was like, because I didn't know I needed this. I needed this conversation. And then I told her, well, thank you. And I was like, and I had told her my dream, like, I want to be like the Ryan Seacrest of the world one day, and, you know, all these things. And she was like, Ruben, stop saying you want to do it. She's like, I'm on your talk show right now. You did it already. Yeah. She's like, you already did it. Stop saying you want to do that one day. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, oh, you're right. Like, granted, was it a production? And no, right? Like, I was literally, like, pushing buttons while I'm talking, and things are popping up on the screen because, it was all, you know, produced and directed by me. But that was cool. So that was season 1, and I think I had like 8 or 9 guests. And so season 2, I had already started booking people from a little bit bigger, like Big Brother and MTV Challenge and the Selena show, the Selena series on Netflix. So I had started reaching out to those people, but then real estate got in the way, and then I had to put that on hold. So I think I'm gonna kind of bring that. Ruben Rambles is like the character, if you will, right? It's like the I'm big on alliteration. So like Ruben Realtor, Ruben Rambles. It's just very easy to remember, but.
I love the challenge.
Yeah. Oh, really? So I'm obsessed with that show, and one of I don't know if you've seen this season, has started already, but one of the guys from The Circle, the show that I was going to be casted on, that was my goal. I was like, when I go on that show, I'm going to wear a challenge shirt, and then maybe MTV will see, and they'll put me on the challenge, and then I'm going to kill it. I'm going to be with CT, but then,
dude,
and
who's
so
been on there for 100 years, I think.
Dude, well, this season, they started the new season. He's back for his 2nd or 3rd consecutive season since he took a break. Completely looks different. Like he had a dad bod, and now he's like all toned again, and like he's But anyway, I'm watching the introductions of the new castmates of the challenge, and they're like, and then on the bottom it's like Ed, U.S. The Circle season 1. I was like, he took my idea. But anyway, so for fun, I'll probably be doing that when I can get time and when I can sit down and make a plan and figure out that. But I mean, other things that for fun, for me, I do have fun getting on Canva and making flyers and doing and making graphics. For me, that's fun for me. But also, like, I love YouTube, and I love watching, like, I'm a music freak.
Right.
I do on my social media, I don't know if you guys have seen, like, on my stories, I do a song of the day every day, and it's me jamming out of my car and saying why I like a song, and because I think music moves people. And I think that I'm just huge on music. Like, I'm a music freak. I don't care what genre it is. I am about it. So hopefully I can start going to concerts again when everything gets back to normal. But I thought I was going to be a singer one day, and realized very soon that I did not have a singing voice. So I was like, oh, well, how else can I use music? Sure. So, yeah.
Well, it's just part of your brand, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the grand scheme of things, people are going to relate to you in numerous different ways.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it's just a great way to, to get yourself out there and continue.
Speaking of music, really quickly, I have this funny story that just popped in my head, and I'm ADD, so I have to tell it. In college, I interned one of my internships was with Eva Longoria, which was super cool. But one of my internships was with 888 Management, and they managed Eli Young, Josh Abbott, all those people. I'm swearing that I'm a huge music fan, and it's so funny that I'm sitting in the internship office, and I'm doing something. My job as an intern was like to work on Target and Walmart and all the like the displays when a new CD comes out, when people bought CDs.
Yeah, CDs. What's that?
Yeah, what is that? And I was working on that project, and in walks some guy, right? Mind you, I had interviewed, and I was like, oh yeah, I love Josh Abbott, I love you. I didn't really know them at the time because they were Texas country, and that wasn't as big in 2012, 13. And so I'm sitting there, and some random country dude, just, like, he looks kind of country, and he sits next to me. He's like, hey, what's your name? What's your name? Just talk, whatever. My boss comes out at the time, and we're all talking. He walks away. And I'm like, who was that? Like, he works here or what? And the look on my boss's face, she, like, looks at me, and she's like, that was Josh Abbott. And, like, I look at her, and I'm like, I know, I'm just kidding. I was like, and she believed that I was just kidding. Like, because I was a jokester, right? Like, I was funny. And so I looked at the other interns. I was like, oh, crap. Like, guys, I really did not know that was him. Like, I had no idea. So it's funny that now I think of that. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm a music freak. I love music. But I didn't even know the artist. So I thought that was a funny moment.
Oh, you know, dude, I think you got a little pass here because it's different when you see somebody on stage than when you see them. Like,
they don't look real.
No, I remember seeing Tim Duncan at Lowe's one time over 1604 and I-10, and the poor guy. They need to have like basket extenders because he's like just dude, he's so tall, right? And he made this lady want to take a picture with him. That's such a nice guy.
Yeah,
want to take a picture with him. Look like look this
like
big.
a
dude,
Lego.
You know, it's funny though when you kind of get that little starstruck moment.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is. Like, yeah, but I feel bad because I didn't get starstruck because I didn't know who the hell he was. I was like, why is this guy just chilling with us? Like, who is this guy? And then she was like, that was him. I was like, literally on the computer working on on Josh Abbott, like working on the plan for Target, and I was like, oh shit, like, well, I should probably start buffing up on the people I work for. But
that's so funny.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'll put a shameless plug out there for Camp Gladiator, man. I Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then Tuesday, Thursday.
You're not speaking my language. How do you do it?
You gotta find time.
I wish I was that's one thing I need to work on is getting up. Man, I can't. It's so. I mean, yeah.
I just feel like you gotta find time, man. You gotta find time for yourself. You know me, man. I got a 4-year-old, 2-year-old, both girls. It's super important for me to be home whenever they
wake up.
Yeah, whenever they wake up, and it's super important for me to be home whenever we're all eating together.
Yeah.
Like at 5:30 in the afternoon or whatever it may be. It's priorities.
Yeah.
And to be alive.
Yeah.
When they go to college and get married.
Yeah.
And
well, I also
old,
yeah.
Exactly, man. I do Tuesday, Thursday. They have this virtual program. You can sign up for Camp Gladiator virtually. If you want to either exercise, lose weight, whatever your goals are, man, they have an option for you. You can work out virtually. I usually do it at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night on Tuesday and Thursday. I plug my phone into the TV. I don't know. I think it's like $30 a month or whatever.
And it's live.
It's live.
The virtual. Okay,
because
I did both, but I've never used the virtual because I was like, I don't know if I like it. But I haven't even looked at it.
Well, I don't want to wake up every day at like 4:50 in the morning to get there, whatever, get ready, and because I don't want to be a zombie 5 days a week.
Right.
I just want to be a zombie 3 days a week apparently. But yeah, man, there is if exercising or weight loss or getting tone or whatever it may be is a goal of yours and you don't really have a platform, it's a great way to do it. And they have an option, for everybody. So
we're sending this to Camp Gladiator.
Right, exactly.
My homegirl my trainer Helen's gonna be like, dude.
Oh, you're with. Okay, so I've heard Helen's name.
Yeah, she's
being talked about.
Beast. Yep. She is a beast, man. I walk away from her workouts. My legs are like Jello.
Oh yeah.
So
I
lost 25 pounds, man, over like between May and June. I was seriously working on it, hard. Lost 25 pounds.
Wow. Yeah. See, I just love it. I think that I'm very, very much so like a group exercise person. I need to feel like I'm at PE class in a sense. Like I need someone to tell me exactly what to do and how to do it. Because if not, when I'm at the gym, like I'll do it, but I'll easily be like, I'm bored. I don't want to. And I have no self control. Like I'll literally just be like, I'm going home. I'm done. And there you're pressured in a sense. You have that obligation of just staying. You don't have to do exactly what they're giving you. You can make modifications.
Right.
But it just you are able to be held accountable.
One thing Helen told me a couple years ago, she's like, Eric, my goal is to motivate you, but this is your workout.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I tell these guys, I'm older than James by a couple of years, dude. 30 hits you hard. You know what I mean? And I know people who are 40 and 50 and 60, they'll tell you those ages too hit you hard. But man, let me tell you, at 30, I'm 37 years old now. By 35, I'm from Mississippi.
Yeah.
That gut that you get down or around your belly, like that shit's real.
And it don't go away.
And it don't go away unless you work on it.
Yeah.
And but like even like your healing and like your mental and I tell these guys all the time, like, man, I feel so dumb sometimes. I can't remember words. Like, so I started reading. And then my eyes started hurting, but I wanted to stay mentally focused. And so, I started playing those damn Sudoku puzzles. And then that kind of got bored with that. And I was like, my eyes were hurting, so let me just start I started ordering all these puzzles from Amazon. They were like coming in daily. I was putting these puzzles together, and then as I was putting these puzzles together, I'm leaning over a table and I'm trying to figure out pieces and shit. Now my back hurts, so now my eyes and my back hurt. Dude, 35 is real.
I mean, I'm only 31, and the biggest point for me, I was in Vegas and walking. I was so sore when I got to the hotel. I was like, this isn't right. Like, this is not okay. I should not be sore from walking.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree. I'm only 31, but
dude,
I'm so boring. That's another thing. Like, I'm a homebody. I don't like to, I like to go have a good time, but then I'm like, oh, what do you know? It's already 11 o'clock. Let's go home. Like, I always want to be home, and my husband hates that. He always wants to be out. But
it's kind of funny. I was talking to one of our Carrie in our office, and I always tell her boring is good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a pregnancy. You want boring.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want all that, man. You just want boring. That's how I like to live my life. Boring.
News. Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely a homebody.
Dude. Sure. So, we've heard your story. We've heard your accomplishments. We've heard some of your struggles. Dude, one thing that I picked up on, our conversations over the last however many years, and then just seeing you on social media, man, one thing that hits home, that will hit home for a lot of people, man, never stop dreaming.
Oh yeah, never.
What does this mean to you? So never stop dreaming. What's next, man? What's next for Ruben? I know we talked about the YouTube, but really, what is next for you?
Oh,
not that real estate's over.
No, yeah,
exactly.
Oh God, I don't know, cause like that conversation I was just having, like I like to live in the unknown in a sense of like I don't know what's next, but like that sense of hope and dreaming that something is coming. That's my motivation, right? Like besides my family and all that, that's innately as a human, that's your motivation, right? But my motivation is just that unknown something that's in the works that I'm not aware of, right? Like, so, but in that same breath, like, I know, or my goal or my dream is, whether it be 5 years from now, is to be able to do something like this, but be on your end, or be like, dedicate a lot of my time to being on panels. Like I love doing stuff like that. Like I did one, Moni, our friend Monica, she worked for Alamo Community Colleges, and she invited me one time to be on a panel to talk about first generation college students to first generation college students. And I was on a panel with like 3 or 4 other people, but of course, like I felt like I was like, this is what, like I thrive, like this is my give back, this is what I like to do. So I think that's what I want. Once I kind of get more transactions and knowledge and experience under my belt, that's what I want to do. Like I want to be asked hopefully one day by all the different mortgage companies and insurance companies that hold these free events or have keynote speakers. Like if I get asked to be a keynote speaker somewhere one day, I probably will cry, because in my head, like for instance, the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce is having an event. They have it's like councilman from District 2 is the keynote. And unfortunately, this is not a healthy mindset. But I'm like, why didn't they ask me? Like, I could do that. Obviously, Ruben, like, you don't have the, like, people are like, well, you don't have the stature, I guess, if you will, right? Like, a following yet. But I was like, I know I could do that. So I think like that sometimes. So, but I think that's my next goal. Like, I want to kind of dedicate some time, hopefully in the near future, to be able to be the voice for people, or be like the shoulder for people to like lean on, to give advice, and not so much in real estate, like, because I hate to say this, but like anyone can be good in real estate, and that's not to say that it's not hard, but like if you try, you can be good at anything. I feel right. But like I want to talk about the things we're talking about, because these are the things that are going to inspire people, like you said, and we're going to tell people like, oh, this is how you can do it, and you can do it. So just focusing more on that route, I think that's what's next. The real estate will just continue to roll, but making sure that I'm able to be a face and be, a voice for the people that need it, for lack of better. Yeah, like people. It sounds like a Hallmark card. Like it sounds so cheesy, but it's the truth. Like that's what like if I could sit here and talk all day like this, oh, I could do it. Like that's why I was like, I think I need to be a celebrity of some sort because I just like interviewing and talking about my story and.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier about opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, the whole. I told James, I'm like about this. I'm like, this is not going to be like, how what's an appraisal like? This is not going to be that, man. I wanted this actually turned out to be exactly what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
I wanted this to be a video that would inspire people to. You may not have the opportunity now. Like I talked about what's next for you, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or the answer is I don't know because the opportunity hasn't presented itself yet. Right. And whenever it does, hopefully I realize it or I see this as an opportunity and I'm going to take advantage of it. And hopefully you do. I think that a lot of people get so caught up in wanting to plan their life for the next 40 years
and what you're supposed to do.
Right, what you're caught up in what you're supposed to do or like the this is what the American dream looks like. Dude, I guarantee you 30 years ago this is not what the American dream looked like.
Oh no.
And so, I think it's super important to just hammer down on, man, you got hopefully this makes it out to all your followers. Yeah. And hopefully it makes out to all of our followers. But at the end of the day, man, you can literally do whatever you want to do. I have, almost a page of notes of Ruben from the time that he was like, an infant to 31 years old now. And it's full of positive and it's full of negative things that's happened in your life and that you may or may not have any control over. We talked about, the kind of the switch that was flipped within your personal life. And then we talked about, how you kind of created, a little bit of negative debt. Mm-hmm. We all done it, man. Yeah. You can get out of this hole.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You just have to take advantage of that opportunity to do it, man.
Yeah.
I think it's super important. There is in the world we live in right now. We know it's crazy right now. We don't know what's going on.
Right.
But you can do it.
Yeah.
You got it, but you have to put in the time and you have to want to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
You can definitely rise above your problems. When you're standing too close to the elephant and there's problems everywhere, it's like you get very overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. But, if you can demand excellence in your business and I see you achieving it with your social and your business, then what's to say that you can't go home and demand excellence from your life?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. I think that I said it before, but I'll say it again. Like, you just have to believe that there is hope, that there's good. Because if not, then you'll find yourself not being able to live. Like, because, I think also you have to. I have a soft spot for an underdog. So
for sure.
If you're an underdog and you're watching this, or you feel like you're an underdog, you have being an underdog. You have all the tools you need. If you have been doubted, and that's just how I feel. Like, I will always be a cheerleader and whenever it's just underdogs for me. I will bet. I was in Vegas and I did a parlay and I literally did I mean, I lost, but I literally picked all the teams that were not supposed to win because I'm like, well, I'm losing my money. It's probably not the smartest thing, but there is still a chance, Underdog. And then I bet on the Dodgers and won, so I was happy about that. But
your new favorite team.
Yeah, my new favorite team, the Dodgers, which I don't watch baseball, sports ball. But anyway,
sports ball.
Yeah, but so I just believe that if you just continue to strive, believe that there is something good out there for you, then you have something to live for. If you can't believe that, then I don't even know how people live. I don't know how they get day by day without thinking that.
And if you can find a way to have your own internal cheerleader, dude, you can conquer a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you have to be able to be like, damn, I did that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even if there's times I make a flyer or a graphic, I'm like, dang, that's the best graphic I've ever made. And it's probably not. Like, I'll probably go on and make a better one, but you have to be able, like, and don't be afraid to brag about yourself. Like, and maybe not to everybody, but, like, to your friends, to the people that don't judge you. Like, okay, like, I'll tell my people, like, okay, I'm not telling you this to brag, but, like, look at this. Look how da-da-da. And those that are for you are going to be like, oh, my God, that's not bragging. We're like, oh, that's really good, So,
well, I think it definitely, like, in your industry, man, like, it's like, yeah, dude, I'm not trying to brag, but I'm going to tell you I'm going to sell 40 houses.
Exactly,
there's a sense of trust there. Yeah. Ruben is a good realtor. We should use him.
Well, and it's, I only do that to my close friends, but it's true. Like, but it's nice because then they go on and they're like, oh, like you said, like someone will bring up real estate and they're like, oh, you got to call my friend Ruben. And so, yeah, it works out. It's a win-win.
And
so
one of the last thing, I think success for all three of us and most people, it starts in a dark room by yourself.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you hit rock bottom and you go, oh, that's when you figure out that nobody's coming for me. I got to do it on my own. And I'm in a dark room and I got to feel my way to the light switch. Yeah. And so that's just, I feel like that's what most successful people do. And that's what you see here.
Yeah.
Hardest question of the day.
Yes.
So, you know, we've launched this podcast. We strategically called it "If I Were You" because we didn't want it to be about insurance. Insurance is boring as hell. So we wanted to launch this thing, you know, to be able to give back to somebody. So, hardest question of the day, man. If I were you, if you were somebody else, we got 2,000 listeners right now. What is something that you will tell them if you were them just get a little bit of advice? It doesn't have to be about real estate. It doesn't have to be about finances. It doesn't have to be about. What is something that you would tell them if you were them? You would do this.
That's something I live by. I would continue to be your unapologetic self. Like, do not be anybody else. Don't think who you're supposed to be, who your parents want you to be, who your best friend thinks you are. Because being yourself sometimes doesn't always pay off in the immediate.
Right.
You know, right away you're like, people listening might be like, well, I can't, like, what? No, like, someone's going to disown me, or someone's not going to be my friend, or they're not going to use me in my business. But what I learned is, over time, kind of like we talked about, like at the beginning it's difficult and it's hard and you're not going to see return. But being unapologetic about who you are, sometimes it can be negative, and sometimes that's okay because you need that. You need to reflect and say, like, okay, I was unapologetic about that part of me and I need to change that. But more often than not, if you're just unapologetic, you're just going to encourage everyone else to, like, drop their shoulders and relax and finally be them. And then in return, you are able to meet people who are their unapologetic self, and you're not fooled, and you're not, you're not burned. You're going to know who they are immediately, so you can turn away or continue to walk forward towards them, So being your unapologetic self is always going to be the key. In a group full of, I've dealt with this, in a group full of very successful real estate agents, I've walked in and completely hermit crabbed and gotten nervous because I'm like, oh my gosh, all these people are better than me. Then the next time that happened, I reminded myself, like, just be unapologetic, and then they may be like, dang, we like this guy, like, or they may turn their nose to you, and that's okay. Then you know that move on, But always being your unapologetic self is always, at the end of the day, going to result in greatness, and that's something that I think that has catapulted me and been the catalyst to where I am in my mental state, my personal state, my physical, my career. So just don't hide in the corner. Basically, be you and be proud of it.
And being yourself is priceless because there's not one other person in the entire world that can do it
like
just
you.
Like you.
Yeah, and like, it's okay, and I say that in all layers. Like, be unapologetically you, but be unapologetically you like me. Be unapologetically you if you're from the West Side, from the South Side, from Canada, from the Bronx, like wherever you're from. Be proud of that, because there's someone wants to be from the South Side. That sounds crazy, but I'm sure there is someone, or there's someone that wishes they grew up in, Mississippi, Right. So like there's beauty and hope in everything that makes you who you are, but it's just getting to that point. That's the hard part.
Yeah, man. Where you grew up, or what your, what are some of what your beliefs are. It doesn't define you.
Right.
It's just who you are, man.
Yeah.
Like I can't help I was born in Mississippi.
Yeah.
I like I do. I claim Biloxi.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, man. Like, I love San Antonio, but people ask me where you're from, man. I'm from Mississippi.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares?
Yeah.
But like you said, man, be who you are. If people don't like it, that's cool.
Yeah.
If people love it, that's cool too.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm real.
Yeah.
This is who I am. And I'm happy because I'm being who I am.
Yep.
So
agreed.
I really enjoyed this, man. I say this every time, man. This is my favorite podcast. But I truly enjoyed this because I think this was more about, just being inspiring people, man. Getting, you can do it.
Yeah.
I've done it. You can do it too.
Well, and then you and I have never had a conversation like this. Like this deep. Like we're always, there's always noise around us, or you know what I mean? Like things distracting us. So I think that's another thing that's cool. Like you've never dig this deep into and there's probably even more. And then we just met, so I'm an open book though. So anytime you guys want to have me back, I'll be here.
Oh man.
If you ever need a guest co-host, I am here. I will talk.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Well, Ruben, we appreciate you.
Gracias.
How do people get a hold of you?
Well, you can search Ruben Realtor anywhere, which is easy enough, but or just type in Ruben with an E, which I'm sure somewhere on the screen or somewhere when you're watching this or hearing this, my name will be spelled out. But a lot of people they spell my name R-U-B, which is the correct spelling, but I spell it a little different. So it's R-U-E-B-E-N and then _ Realtor on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook if you just type in Ruben Realtor, I'll pop up. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much on all the platforms except for Twitter. I'm not a tweeter.
Type his name in, you'll see.
Yeah, you'll see me. Google me something. But yeah, other than that, I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm gonna be a presenting sponsor, so I'll be at the podium speaking at that LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce event.
Is there a date on that you have?
October 9th, I believe.
Okay, got it. Excellent.
Yeah, October 9th. Oh no. Maybe October. Oh yeah, October 9th.
Perfect. We'll put the date on there.
Yeah, October 9th. And it hasn't been announced yet, but by the time this comes out, I'm sure it will be. That I'll be there, sponsoring it, and
that's the chamber, right?
Yeah, it's the chamber. Yeah, it's gonna be at the Hilton Palacio on the Riverwalk.
Excellent. Yeah,
so I'm excited about. That's gonna be actually a big moment for me because it's my first year in real estate. I'm already one of the head sponsors, and I'll be sponsoring next to like Bear County and like some cool big dogs. That's gonna be cool for me.
There you go.
Send us the invite.
Yeah, I will.
Perfect. Well, I'm Eric. This is James. We're the owners of my insurance group. Ruben the Realtor.
Yes.
Ruben Realtor.
Yep.
Man, we appreciate y'all watching.
Thank you.